everybody. This is Diverseability, and today I am interviewing here Pastor Noah Hepler from Queer Eye, which I'm very excited about because I loved I loved your story. Like on Queer Eye, it's pretty much my favorite episode of the series, and I really look up to this story, and I really think other people will too once they see it, because I'm going to encourage them to see it.
Thank you. Yeah, it was an amazing experience, and I don't think profound is too light of a word. It was certainly pivotal in changing a lot of things for me and seeing things in a new way.
Yeah,
Mostly about myself, I think, but also for others. You know, it's just a new way, a new lens to kind of see things that I've been looking at before, I guess is the best way to put that.
Yeah, Queer Eye definitely, I think, has a way of just relating to just so many people out there who watch it, and it's just, I love how real the stories are. And by the way, this show has won just like a bunch of Emmy awards,
right?
Which I think is totally deserved. So yeah, so if you could you talk about your experience, you briefly tell your story about like how you got on the show. And
so yeah, that's a great story, actually. How I ended up getting on the show was that a member of the church actually found a flyer and submitted all the information, and then they contacted me and they said, would you be interested? Would it be okay? I think is actually what they said. Would it be okay if I submitted this for Queer Eye? And I said sure, because nothing that interesting ever happens in my life. And it was within, I think, easily within 48 hours that one of the casting directors was calling me on the phone. So it went from, yeah, this will never happen, to going in the direction of this could definitely happen. And then obviously it did in fact happen. So that's how it began. It was also, so there's kind of, and that shows up in the show a little bit, I think. There was also some discussion with the church council, because we knew, at least to some degree, the church would be, the congregation would be presented in the show. So we talked with them about it. But also, kind of the funny story is, a few weeks before all of that happened, there was a sermon that I gave that was on the story in the Gospel of Luke, where a group of people come to Jesus and they say, did you hear about this event, where this terrible thing happened to all these people? And they asked Jesus, basically, did this terrible thing happen because they were, because of who they were? Was it because they were bad people? And Jesus basically says, God doesn't work that way. And gives other examples when terrible things happen. And he keeps saying, were they worse than anybody else? No. And I kind of juxtapose that against the narratives that especially queer people often hear from religious leaders. Whenever, say, a hurricane slams into a city, it's very often that you'll hear some well-televised pastor saying, oh, it's because of the queer community. And I said in the sermon, I said, wouldn't it be nice if our kind of Christian voice got the same broadcast reach as those other voices? And one of my members, which doesn't normally happen in our church, but said out loud in the sermon, like literal broadcast reach. And so I think it's kind of funny that was just like a week or two before all of this began, and all of a sudden, here we are on Queer Eye with an incredible broadcast reach of what another Christian voice can sound like. compared to the ones that we normally hear. And so that I think for me was part of the wonder and amazement of the whole experience, was that was also lingering in the background for us as a chance for people to hear, what I would say, a chance for people to hear perhaps the gospel for the first time, actual good news instead of threat from a religion.
Yeah, I know for me, a lot of times and I know a lot of people feel like religion is this like, it could be this bad thing because sometimes it is presented in a way that's like threatening, or like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, if you're a certain way, you're going to be banished and go to hell. And that's something that I feel like I hear a lot from people. Sometimes they're not sure if like the queer community will even go to heaven, and I'm just like, excuse me.
Right. Right. Yeah. That was something we definitely wanted to help resist that kind of narrative, because we just don't, as a community, we don't think that that's an accurate portrayal of anything that Scripture is saying. And I was surprised that I didn't get any pushback. I was expecting to find an inbox full of people arguing with me. Little did I know, the spam filter caught most of that, and I didn't find it until 2 years later. I just now found it, and I'm like, oh, that's where it's been. So, which has probably been great for my health. It's the first time the spam filter's just been amazing. But unfortunately, it caught also a lot of well wishes, and I'm very slowly making my way through those. I haven't even caught up with what happened in the days after the episode aired. I was not prepared for the outpouring that we would get, and it's been amazing. And COVID's been very problematic, and us getting a team developed and put together to respond to all that in a healthier way. But I can say I've at least glanced at almost everything that people have said. I've just not had a chance to really respond. I think I have, if except for the ones that got filtered out. Those I still have to catch up with. I'm not done reading.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty cool that you got all this support and all these messages from people, and it's really heartwarming to know that there are people out there that definitely support the queer community and the Christian community. Like, I don't know how to describe you guys, but like basically just I guess just the Christian community, because I feel like you guys are like true Christians. I feel like the ones that constantly are giving out threats and banishing certain people, like those people aren't really listening to the gospel.
Yeah, I agree. I think they've. I try to remind myself, because I grew up in that kind of Christian temperament, and the thing I try to remind myself is that they're passing on something they've received. They've been lied to also. And that's not to take away from like responsibility of that. At some point we have to realize that this is not healthy, but and check in with our own selves about what we're saying and what we're doing. Not to deny that, but to at least for myself to try to temper my reaction with a little bit of compassion for them, in hopes that that helps them dialogue. And because what I worry about is what I really want to do is just yell at them and say, no, you're wrong, and like, you're terrible people. And there's the thing that I fear with that is that it just pushes them further away. And however, I want to say at times, for people who've been hurt by religion, sometimes creating that safe space for ourselves means just pushing back and say, I'm not going to entertain this, not in my space, not here. And I think there are varieties of appropriate ways, but I think for me, the path that I feel called down to follow, as it were, to follow down that path is trying. I think primarily it is to reach out to people who have been wounded by faith, by religious authorities, and not to win them back, but to apologize and to say, this was inappropriate for the church. I'm sorry that we did this to you, and to help support them. But when encountering those voices that are resistant to that message, trying to do that with some level of compassion has been, I think, helpful for me in my own spiritual well-being and maybe even mental health, is to be able to disengage when I need to, be able to be firm when I need to, but also to try to be compassionate at the same time.
Yeah. Speaking of your church, you're currently a pastor of church. I'm assuming it's the same one that been. Can you talk a little bit about your church and what you guys like stand for?
Yeah, I'm still at Atonement, and not planning on going anywhere anytime soon. Atonement is largely the queer community at Atonement has been up and down just because of the nature of our neighborhood and the transientness and all kinds of other things that factor in. But always relatively present in some way, shape, or form. And well before I got here, they had began at least the process. They thought they had completed it, but they began the process of identifying themselves as a welcoming and affirming congregation. So that preceded me by quite a bit. But I think what makes them a safe and welcoming space is that they're largely comprised of people who have themselves been wounded by things that the church has done. And somehow they found this community and one another, and have continued to support one another through and in spite of that experience that they've had. And I think their hope is to be better witnesses to what we believe to be true about the gospel and about what God wants for us. I think that people might be surprised if they came to worship. It is a rather traditional kind of community in that sense, as far as worship goes. But I think if you hang out long enough with us, you find that there's a kind of, for lack of a better term, a subversive edge to that, where we see and try to identify ways in which even the more ancient community was already listening and developing ways to resist kind of ways that the larger culture might exclude people from being welcomed or included, and we try to embody that. Sometimes we fail. We're not always perfect. There's a lot of learning curve for us, but what I think offsets that is that the community is very genuine, and capable of engaging and hearing where we may have dropped the ball, and in genuine ways being able to pick that up and continue to move along. That's I think what's key to the community. So I think another part of that is people who are wrestling with the faith, I think, have a space here that we're actively trying to cultivate, that you can be part of this community and not have everything figured out. And in fact, we might even prefer that. I often see the meme, and I think it's very true for the kind of community that we're trying to build at Atonement, which is that the opposite of faith is not doubt. The opposite of faith is certainty. And so that faith might actually engage with quite a bit of doubt. One of the things so part of that being a quote unquote traditional community is that we still say the creed on Sunday morning. But one of the things that we've talked about before is that, that's the faith of the community. I, as an individual, might on any given Sunday have trouble with any line of that creed. I might wonder, like, is that really the way things is? How possible is that? And that's okay for me to question, because that's the faith of the community to which I belong. And the community believes that and creates space for me to wrestle with that. And in that, I think we are all developing a more profound sense of faith and the ability to question. I think some way, one way to describe the community is a term that I'm seeing a lot on TikTok and other social media, is kind of a deconstructed Christianity. And as a community, maybe, I don't know if we would call ourselves deconstructed, but we certainly are very friendly with that idea. And many of us have had to do that. And so individually, there's a lot of Christians rethinking what it looks like to be Christian and trying to live into, as you've described, what we believe to be a more genuine form of what Christianity looks like.
Yeah, I really think it's awesome what you guys do at Atonement. I personally have always wanted to, see a service or something there.
We're working on that. That technology in a 125-year-old building is that's a big learning curve for us as far as trying to get things set up. We've made a couple of attempts, and either the Wi-Fi just doesn't carry through. The biggest thing is, frankly, COVID, and that we've had low numbers and not a lot of people are showing up in person. So somebody to run the technology other than me has been a problem. I'm hoping as COVID subsides more. Right now, it's going in the opposite direction in the Philadelphia area. But once we can get to that point and get more people, I'm hoping to put together a team and maybe finally get to the point where we could stream or record an entire service and at least get it on YouTube for people to watch later. Right now, it's just the sermons. And that's basically due to our skill and technological problems, a combination of the two.
Well, the sermons is better. It's something. Something's better than nothing.
Yeah, it's something. So we have a YouTube channel right now. It's just the Sunday morning sermons, and I believe it's Atonement Fishtown. If you search for that on YouTube, you should find us. So that's what we have right now. I hope that will grow. I hope all of our kind of internet community, how to figure out to create space in social media and on the internet for people and to support them where they are, is a long-term goal for us. That, as a small community, I mean, that hasn't changed yet. It's still, 15 to 20 people showing up on any given Sunday. As that changes, then I think we'll be able to have the human resources to expand and bring more of that on board. And I don't know if you can hear the ice cream truck outside, but I'm on.
I hear Mr. Softy.
Yeah.
What that was, guys. If you guys don't know what Mr. Softy is, it's an ice cream truck. You might hear him, you might not.
Right. Yeah, that's how we know it's summer around here. As soon as you hear Mr. Softy, it's officially summer.
Right. thank you for coming on today, talking about like your faith, your church, and your a little bit about your experience on Queer Eye. I really hope people really resonate with your story, and yeah, it's just been really such a blessing having you on today.
Oh, thank you. The blessing is all mine to be here, as it is with all those messages that I receive. Like those messages, things like this, they support me. They support the community so much, and I'm more than happy to participate.
Diverseability with your host Emma Billings. We still talk to people, hear jokes and songs, promote acceptance all day long. I know she can be a bit crazy, but she has diverseability. Da da da.